Hello and welcome to our quick live stream from the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today, Sunday, the 8th of October. Had intended originally to do a quick live stream yesterday early evening after the match finished, but decided to postpone that to this morning to have a chance to look at the highlights on YouTube and on the TV, and also read through quite a lot of the various different other pundits and sites, etc. Before we crack on with today's live stream, please do click the subscribe button for the channel, click the like button for this live stream as well, and also feel free to pop any comments in the comment section to go with this live stream, either live or as you watch it later on. So just quick 10 minutes or so just with my thoughts for yesterday's match. Obviously, a very good result, 3-1 win over Kilmarnock, getting revenge for the loss in the Viaplay Cup a couple of months ago. Very good performance, I thought, all round from Celtic. And my thought was also it was great to see Celtic getting back on the front foot, playing more with a bit of urgency, a bit more energy, and felt it was quite reminiscent of the good days of Ange Postecoglou's way of playing football. I thought it was very interesting, actually. The starting position of Hatate seemed much more further forward. He seemed to have license to drive through midfield to get to the edge of the box. Seemed to be playing more alongside Matt O'Reilly rather than playing deeper alongside Callum McGregor. I thought also Callum McGregor's starting position was further forward, more towards halfway line, allowing McGregor to break into the attacking third and also to link up far better with Palma, Maeda, O'Reilly and Hatate. And interestingly, also Liam Scales and CCV, good partnership, looked very sound in defence. Kilmarnock had a few threats on goal, but never really, until they scored, obviously, any proper chances. And also Liam Scales and CCV, particularly Scales, was playing further forward, coming towards the halfway line often, and Scales breaking into the early section of the Kilmarnock half as well, which allowed the ball to be recycled much quicker, keeping Kilmarnock under pressure, creating a lot more gaps, and also allowed McGregor and Hatate to play further forward. And so I thought this is actually Celtic's best performance probably of the season. Although the game against Aberdeen, I thought, was also a very good performance in a different way. And I do wonder whether it's Brendan Rodgers, to an extent, getting his philosophy of football over to the players, whether it's also the players maybe getting over their philosophy better back to Rodgers. As I have heard, there have been a couple of meetings between McGregor and Rodgers, including one this week. I do wonder whether some of the players' thoughts have been fed back to Rodgers, which has allowed him and McGregor and the team to adapt a bit. Simply a thought. And as I say, there was a rumour that McGregor and Rodgers had a meeting on Thursday following the Lazio match. And I do wonder whether maybe some of the feedback from the players has allowed Rodgers to slightly tweak the tactics, as I felt Celtic played much more on the front foot, didn't really allow Kilmarnock to nullify Celtic's threat, didn't allow them to do their blanket defence to block things off. Thought also interesting that Celtic were shooting from the edge of the box more often, which also can be a very good tactic against teams who play 8 and 9 men in defence. The selection for the starting 11 I thought was very much correct, and it was great to see that three players who've had quite a lot of criticism from fans and pundits and journalists recently, Hatate, Lewis Palma and Greg Taylor. I think they were Celtic's three-star players, with Reo Hatate very much being man of the match. And also interesting that Reo Hatate stayed on right to the end of the game, pretty much, and seemed very much full of energy. So I do wonder whether it's Rodgers allowing Hatate to play more of a free role, which is where he was particularly good under Postecoglou, whether maybe Hatate's just that bit more fit, a bit more back into match sharpness, whether it's a factor with that. Don't know. Very good, though, for Celtic to start CCV and Liam Scales in central defence. And I was so happy to see that Lewis Palma started out on the wing, replacing Yang. And I personally was very impressed with Palma's ability to pick up the ball, drive down the wing, drive into the box, and also was a threat on several occasions in the box. Lovely pass over the top to Kyogo in the second half that nearly led to a goal. Of course, very clever interception for Celtic's second goal, playing a 1-2 with the Kilmarnock defender to allow himself a lovely curling shot for the second goal. Very impressed with Lewis Palma, and would personally like to see him doing a wee bit more in terms of corner kicks and direct free kicks, as those were two particular skills he had in Honduran football and playing in Greece last year and the start of this season. So big 10 out of 10 for Reo Hatate, 9 out of 10 for Taylor and Lewis Palma, and also interesting. I thought also Greg Taylor being allowed to play much more further forward, coming into midfield to be take over that linking role that McGregor has been playing all season. And of course, on a couple of occasions, getting into the box to shoot, and then being in the box for the third goal as well. And I thought Celtic actually yesterday flooded the box far more players getting into the box in open play, far more players getting into the box for corners and free kicks, which of course creates a free man or free men in the box because there's too many people in there for the defensive team to mark or get in the way of. And again, that seemed more in the manner of Postecoglou rather than Rodgers. And I think actually personally, the best tactics are a mix of Postecoglou's all attack, all energy, and Brendan Rodgers' slightly more organised, slower way. And I think also an amalgamation of those two will work especially well in Europe, particularly away from home. And so I actually am much more hopeful of our away games in Madrid and in Rome against Lazio, and for our home games against Feyenoord and Atletico Madrid still to come. I think merging the two styles of football will work especially well, especially now that we've got nearly a full squad, apart from Navroki and Abada, and can pretty much put out our best 11 each week. A couple of slightly controversial VAR decisions. The second goal, which was looked at for offside, I think quite clearly the Kilmarnock defender came in to take the ball. Reo Hatate was keeping his way out of the ball. Finlay simply missed the challenge, missed his control of the ball, which then caused it to rebound to Lewis Palma, who very quickly whipped in that shot past the goalkeeper from the edge of the box. I think the Kilmarnock defender was very much going for the ball. He just simply made a mistake and didn't control it properly, and so was clearly a goal. But it's very much one of those things where VAR sometimes goes for you, as it did yesterday. If with regards to that goal, went against us against Lazio, with their goal being marginally onside. If you take the last defender being in a certain position, if you take it in a slightly different position, which also would have been equally acceptable, the goal would have been offside. And also the ball grazing off Dyson Maida's toe made Luis Palma offside. Had it missed his toe, as might have been the interpretation from the VAR decision on Wednesday, Luis Palma would have scored. We would have been 2-1 up with 10 minutes or so to go. Could have been a very different game. Talking also of VAR decisions, Celtic were given a penalty, which was then overturned. I presume the referee just thought it was a tangle of legs. However, remembering when VAR went in our favour against Rangers, when there was a tangle of legs with Lagerbielke, that was deemed as being the opposition player from Rangers getting his foot into Lagerbielke's feet, causing him to miss his kick and then fall over. It very much went in our favour that day. This one, it looked to me that Hatate was driving out round the side of the Kilmarnock player, who put his arm out to block Hatate. Hatate had to slightly change direction. Then Hatate got his foot past the Kilmarnock player, whose foot then came across, probably in an effort to go for the ball, but did clip Hatate's heels, causing Hatate genuinely to come down in the box. For me, it was a penalty, which is what the referee very much thought looking at it live. However, the VAR thought different, and the referee, not unexpectedly, having looked again on replay, slow motion, then had doubts in his head, which caused him to change his decision. What I can certainly say from personal experience of having refereed football, umpired at cricket, umpired and refereed at other sports and stuff, is 9 times out of 10, your first instant reaction to something is the correct one. I think very much once you get used to refereeing and umpiring and adjudicating on things, your natural instincts, your first live instant reaction nearly always is the correct one. I think personally, the referee made the decision right the first time and overturned it with the benefit of slow motion replays, lots of angles, and a fellow referee getting in his ear to say that you got it wrong. However, in the end, it didn't matter tremendously. Kilmarnock's goal looked to me like a foul on the edge of the box by the Kilmarnock player on Greg Taylor. Taylor got past him. Kilmarnock player got his arm round him, pulled him back. Taylor fell over. Some people were saying it was too far back in the creation of the goal to be of relevance. Pretty much, Kilmarnock got the ball on the edge of their own box, kicked it out to Vassell deep inside Celtic's half. He then won a tussle with Alistair Johnston. The kind of challenge by Vassell on Johnson and Johnson on Vassell, sometimes it's a free kick for the defender, sometimes it's a free kick for the forward. The referee deemed it as being Johnson fouling Vassell, which I thought it was pretty much 50-50. Then Kilmarnock worked the ball quickly across Celtic's back four into the position where Greg Taylor would have been, and their player Watson scored neatly under Joe Hart's body. On another day, I could certainly see that goal being disallowed, much like the goal against Rangers was disallowed for the challenge on Lagerbielke. However, generally over a season, VAR and refereeing mistakes and bits of good luck and bad luck tend to balance themselves out over the season. And as always, pretty much, I feel there's no real sense in crying over spilt milk of decisions going for you or against you or VAR controversy, because it's past and we need to move on. And happily, that 3-1 victory, we can happily move on. 7 points ahead of second place, 10 points ahead of our likely biggest rivals, who I think for quite a number of weeks are going to be in real turmoil as they try to sort out who's going to be their manager, and then for that new manager trying to work out how to get that bunch of ill-suited players together and get their team spirit up. Happily, I think Celtic can exploit that over the next few weeks and months and build up a really good lead over the rest of 23 and carry it through in 24. I think also that does take a wee bit of the pressure off in Europe and may allow Celtic to play that wee bit more freely, partly because we've got our players back largely, and partly because we've got the ability to maybe rest a player or two more in domestic football. One other quite wee interesting comment for those who've watched the BBC highlights was how they were so surprised at how well Liam Scales was doing, as would appear to be the case with Brendan Rodgers. I was just quickly looking up before I did this live stream the ages of Celtic's central defenders. Scales is 25, CCV is 25, Gustav Lagerbielke is 23, Nawrocki is 22. When you actually think about it, Scales is just as experienced as CCV, older and more experienced than Nawrocki and Lagerbielke. And I thought it was quite interesting, the fact that everyone was so surprised how well he was doing. Scales had a very good season last season for Aberdeen. He was one of their key players, which got them up into the European qualifying positions, made them a threat against pretty much every club apart from us last season. And so I actually wasn't that frightened or scared or anxious about Liam Scales fitting into Celtic central defence in terms of any injury or suspension coverage. And I actually was keen that Celtic kept hold of him rather than transferring him off to Aberdeen or somebody else in the first transfer window. Also thought it was quite interesting that Gustav Lagerbielke was blamed for Scales not being quite so certain in defence, when, as I said earlier, Scales is 2 years older than Lagerbielke, has more games under his belt. Lagerbielke admittedly has played one international game. Scales is only just breaking back into the Republic of Ireland full squad. And I think actually against Rangers, both of them looked like players playing at a high level, high pressure, and I think they both equally were a little bit uncertain over the next couple of games. I think Lagerbielke and Scales formed a very good partnership, and I'm actually very, very hopeful that now that CCV seems to be back to good fitness, match sharpness was far better yesterday rather than on Wednesday. Very hopeful with Celtic going forward that our defence is going to be that bit stronger, as I also was very impressed with Greg Taylor for the last few games, and Alistair Johnson, as always, was a total rock and dependable player on the right side of defence. So, just finishing things off for today, as I said earlier on, do feel free to pop any comments and opinions in the comment section in reaction to watching this live stream. Please do like and subscribe. And tomorrow we'll do possibly slightly more in-depth second review of the game and start looking at one or other two Celtic-related issues as we go into the international break, which will allow some players not involved with international football to carry on training with Rodgers and his team at Lennoxtown, and hopefully none of our players away on international duty come back with injuries. As knowing our luck now, that Luis Palma and Scales have shown great ability. Knowing our luck, they'll come back with injuries and be out of the side, just as they seem to have got themselves established in it. So for today, thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye for today. Speak again tomorrow. And hail, hail, everybody.